I'm not sure whether you've tried haggis.
I've not tried it. I've seen it on TV though.
Yeah, kind of reminiscent of our balut.
Balut?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's memorable. Made my trip to Scotland memorable.
Okay. Ciao everyone, and welcome to TBD, the Borderless Dialogues with Sheila. Of course, I'm Sheila, the Director of Xavier Ateneo's Office of International Cooperation and Networking, or OICN, the gateway to the world. We're here to build international connections and create opportunities for global learning. We are so excited you're here with us today for this global journey. No passports required. Whether you're chilling at home, waiting for your class to start, or on the move, we're bringing the world to you. Now, if you're wondering what TBD is all about, well, buckle up because we're diving into something that's shaping the future of education: internationalization in the academe. Yep, that's right. How academia is going global and how it's changing everything from the classroom to our daily lives abroad. The internationalization of higher education is a multifaceted trend driven by a confluence of economic, political, social, and academic factors. It reflects the increasing interconnectedness of our world and the growing need for globally competent individuals. Our newest program, TBD, or the Borderless Dialogues, is your go-to visual podcast that tackles the significance of internationalization at Xavier University and its impact on the modern educational experience. Expect insightful conversations, expert perspectives, and a look at how XU is connecting with the world. Join us on the Borderless Dialogues, a new video podcast and flagship info series, and this episode is its first flight into your doors. Now let's meet our amazing guests. Ham and Andre, welcome to the show. Both of them are XU alumni, and actually they're both handling the cross-cultural communication classes. Andre is handling the development communication class, and Ham is handling the international studies section. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Doc. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for saying yes to the invitation to be the guest of our pilot flight episode. So thank you. So maybe I'll start with Ham. Actually, both of them studied abroad, so they bring with them a wealth of experiences and stories of how it's like to be living there. So Ham, you've studied in the UK for your master's, right? What's the vibe like in British classrooms? Is there a huge difference between how the students and faculty interact?
Well, apart from the fact that, we take tea, we drink tea during our breaks, and we speak British accent.
Wow.
No, kidding aside, Doc. I think the highlight perhaps of the interaction with our teachers is that I think the classroom vibe is more of like an egalitarian space, like where we are really allowed to really criticize or
speak.
Speak. But of course, there's a certain level of respect towards our professors. But then we really have this space to really talk about certain topics that are controversial, or sometimes there's really a point where we actually challenge our teachers in such a way that, it's still what we learn, it's we have a collaborative environment. So I guess the British classroom is really like that. I think it comes from a position where the UK is very diverse, and therefore it reflects the classroom as well.
Yeah, so I definitely agree because I actually did my second year of masters in one of the universities in London, and oh my God, I love the British accent. I love that perspective as well. Thank you, Ham. Andre, how about you? You've been in the US for a student exchange program. I remember that pretty well. What was it like for you? Was it what you expected, or did the academic dynamics catch you by surprise?
Right, so it is what I expected because before you do an exchange program, there's a lot of preparation intended for you, especially intercultural communication preparations. But as far as the academic dynamics is concerned, it was really, for one, culturally diverse.
Oh, yeah.
So not only the Filipino in an American classroom, because I also have international students with me and fellow exchange students as well. So there's that. And then secondly, because of that diversity, there's that element of dynamism in that our exchange, similar to Ham, there's that exchange that are more hyper-contextual and more diverse. And we get to be very critical in our discussions and also bring in our experiences to the classroom setting. So there's that element. And I also really, really love the way the conversation is being facilitated by the moderator or the teacher in this particular case, because again, it brings in different perspectives and just enlivens up our classroom setting.
Wow, very good. It also brought back memories of my being a student abroad, no, for both my my studies in the master's and the PhD. Okay, now let's still talk about the bigger picture, because I'm sure it's not just really a walk in the park, right? The academic environment, Ham, when it comes to resources and facilities at the university, how much do they shape the student experience in international settings?
I think when I entered the university, the first thing that I looked for is actually the library. So what I really love about the library is that there are a lot of resources, not only books specifically, but I think it's kind of like high technology in a way that where you can actually borrow books online,
Right.
and you can search for authors, in many ways. I love that they have this discussion rooms where you can actually have a discussion with your teachers, with your peers, or even researchers who are doing their PhD. Another thing would be the international office. What I love about the international office is that they really guide you through the entire journey, from really looking for accommodations, which I think one of the most challenging aspect of being an international student. Second would be, trying to navigate as well, writing your academic essays. I mean, international standards is so different from the Philippine standard. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but I think it's very different in such a way that it's very independent, specifically at least in British academia. And then finally, try to, the international office really offers opportunities not only for your learning, for your academic endeavors, but as well as external events, where I think you can, where the international office can think that, it's related to you or
the
to
fun
your
side.
culture.
Maybe the fun side of it. Yes. I also had the same experience. Actually, my university in Canada had this office to help you with your academic writing, and it's something that I was so happily surprised, because wow, it's a good facility, for students to go to if they struggle with their papers and everything. And now, Andre, you've got a unique perspective here too, because if Ham did his studies in the UK, it's totally different from the US, I'm sure. From a student's point of view, how do living conditions and the home environment affect how students thrive and when they're studying abroad?
Greatly. I mean, this is basically the ecosystem of support when I think about it, right? For context, I stayed in a university dorm. The food was also provided in the university dining center. So it's highly central, highly focused on the campus life setting. So what I did experience was somewhat of a campus life, really, in that you get to spend the whole 7 days in a week in the campus and almost 24/7, right? Now, living conditions is very, very important in my case, because there was the element of support in that it's not just a physical space, but also really a social space. There were lots of third spaces, so to speak, like parks, like activities in your own dorm level, or also in the student lounges, and even the physical spaces like infrastructure, like almost every building has a student lounge as well. All of which is, I think, intended for interaction, always for conversation, not just between fellow students, but also professors. So there's that ecosystem of support, so to speak, mainly headed by the international office as well. A very, very important component when it comes to studying abroad.
Yes, so the international office is very important in an international student's life, because I think all of us could agree that they really helped us made our lives a bit easier
Yes.
when we were studying abroad. So all about adapting to these new environments, no, and those challenges do shape the way we learn and grow. Now, we can't forget one of the best parts of living abroad: food, and more food. I mean, who hasn't had a food experience abroad that either blew your minds away or made you say, "What in the world am I eating?" Any food experiences that from your travels that really shocked you or maybe made you fall in love with something totally new?
Okay, I think when I was traveling to the northern part of the UK, specifically Scotland.
Scotland.
Yes, Scotland.
I love the sand.
The capital. We traveled to the capital, Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
Yeah, so it's such a beautiful city.
I want to go there.
Yeah, the vibe is so archaic, you know, like we can really smell history. Okay? Smell history. Yeah. So what I really love about that travel is something that's memorable. It's also the food. I'm not sure whether you've tried haggis.
I've not tried it. I've seen it on TV though.
Yeah, but haggis is so interesting. It's basically this
What is it made of?
lamb's organ
Oh my God.
mixed with oats and other Scottish things.
Was it good though?
Yeah, I think the first time I tried it, at first it was like, like I felt a little bit squeamish. But then later on, I think what I loved about it is that it's kind of reminiscent of our, balut.
Balut?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it
Wow.
tastes good and it's memorable. Made my trip to Scotland memorable.
Okay. Yeah, I've not tried haggis, but I've seen it in some of the UK shows I've watched in the past, and I thought, wow, I do not know what to say, but maybe when my time comes to try it, I will tell you. Okay. How about you, Andre? Any memorable food moments that you want to share with us?
Well, I think something that has to be said is rice, right? We always look for rice. Now, in American culture, of course, it's not part of that. But in our dining center, they have an attempt in which almost every 2 weeks they bring in international cuisine. So there's a week for Indian food, there's a week for Filipino food. I had a comment on adobo, but that's a different discussion. But there's also, for example, they bring in Pacific types of food. So like, for context, in my particular school, we're in the center of America, so there's little to no seafood, right?
Oh, okay.
So they brought that in, and I was able to teach them how to open up crabs, how to eat shrimp properly, all of that. So that was fun. And this is just not food, by the way. It's an actual event. Like the whole dining center is all designed for that particular event. So, so it's not just really experiencing American food per se, but also really different types of food from various parts of the world. And this international students like me or exchange students like me bring in the experience to them. We teach them how to properly cook this type of food. So for example, with adobo, I had to comment, this has too much oil, so we can work on that. That was fun. Particularly Indian food though, very, very interesting.
Yeah, I also remember my time in London. Every week there was always a featured cuisine. Because I mean, international universities are like melting pots, where you get to meet almost all people from across the world, so it's a very interesting time to try something new and also wear the costumes, because whenever we had that, we were encouraged to wear, like if it's a Greek party, for example, you have to wear something Greek-ish or something like that. So it was really fun, and I really remember trying almost all the food that was available that time. So it was a very interesting experience, something I will not forget. Okay, anyway, let's get real for a moment, because we've been sharing about the wonderful experiences of trying new food, meeting these new people. Not just the thrill and the adventure of studying abroad or the excitement. We can also say there were challenges, right, of living abroad, studying abroad, and it's an essential part of actually being there. If you were to share, your experiences about that, we're now opening up. So there's now the no cap segment to the challenges that also come with studying abroad. So let's start with you, Ham. You've spent quite extended time abroad now. What was one of the toughest things that you faced when you first started working in different countries? What knocked you out of your comfort zone, and how did you handle it? With grace, I'm sure.
thinking about challenges, what comes to mind first would be accommodation. Yeah, it's always been a challenge for many international students. Yeah, because the moment that you go to another country, of course you'll think, where will you live, right? And I think that really knocked me off the latter part of my journey. Yeah, because I came to the UK without this understanding of how the housing regulation works, And apparently, you're really required to have an accommodation prior to getting into the country, But I didn't do that. So what I did is that I booked an Airbnb, and then I stayed there for for 3 days, and I looked around the area, and then and on the last day I was thinking, I think maybe this is the time where I become homeless, because I still couldn't find an accommodation for 3 days. Yeah, but luckily, finally, I was really able to find, and it's just near the beach where it's really helped me cope up with my entire international being an international student. And another, I think, at the latter part of my journey, as mentioned, because our graduation, I don't know, but this is kind of like a weird thing in the UK, where our graduation is scheduled the later part of after your program ends, and the accommodations there actually contracts you gives you a contract based on the time of your program, not really until your graduation. I had a challenge there because I really need to stay until my graduation,
but you couldn't.
But I need to look for a new accommodation, new contract for it. So so I that really affected me in a way that I asked my teachers, my professors, because that's also the time that the deadline of my academic essays, to extend the deadline so that I can focus with looking for accommodation instead of writing my academic essays. So it was really a challenging time for me. Yeah.
I also remember, because when I went to London, I couldn't find an accommodation. I was at the central London, is all the more difficult, right? So luckily, the lady at one of the target lodging that I wanted to go to was Filipina. So when she told me that there was no space, and I think 50 people were already on the wait list, I asked her, "Are you Filipino by some chance?" Because her name is so Filipino. And then she replied yes, and she told me, "Okay, you're on the number 1 on the list now." So I was able to go, I think 2 weeks after. I was really desperate looking for accommodations, because it's really tough in London. It's very expensive because it's central London, but because it's closest to the university, that's why I chose it. And luckily, the Filipina was really a big help. So, Ma'am Lita, hello. I hope you're watching. Anyway, how about you, Andre? Any unforgettable challenge that you have to face?
I think there was a lot, that's for sure. But I want to start with the most immediate one. Weather and time.
Here we go.
Yes. So another sense of context, right? I'm in the mountainous area, and then that's where snow is real, very, very real. With that, the moment I arrived, everything was already all white. There was a bit of a snowstorm coming in. So the first few weeks was really just me acclimatizing, because there's latitude at play, there's humidity, there's weather, and then time, because that's a major shift. For my case, I think that's 14 hours. Philippines was ahead of us 14 hours in the US. So there's that element I had to cope up with. There's a sense of direct disorientation, ganun lang, the moment you come in, and that's something you have to grapple with naturally, because I think all of us really have to go through that, right? Luckily for me, there was, aside from support, really just awareness that that's gonna happen in the first few days of your stay in a different country. And that's about it. That's the most immediate one, other than the bigger challenges in academic setting and lodging and
everything. In London, I remember that in a day you can experience the 4 seasons. Right? It will snow, it will rain, it will be very sunny, and it gets a bit chilly. And I also remember spending 2 winters in Denmark. My God! Ooh. So it was also quite an experience of experiencing the snow for a longer period of time, and then gathering and mastering of all your human heat to sustain to survive the next 3-4 months of winter in another country. So yeah, so very interesting stories from Ham and Andre, and it's crazy how much we learn, not just in the classrooms, but from life itself when we go global. This is why we love the Borderless Dialogues. It's not just about academics, it's also about learning lessons outside the classroom or campus borders. Essentially holistic growth and embracing the challenges that come with living abroad. Alright, to top it all off, here at TBD, our audience is equally part of the conversation. How about a message from you, Ham and Andre, to our audiences, especially our young students who are interested in global education? What would you say to them?
Okay, do not be afraid to explore the world, and perhaps you'll get a PhD, not only an academic degree, but a PhD in adaptability, in surviving the 5 degrees Celsius weather, or the extreme weathers in general, and of course I think the really a PhD in making friends, from across borders, from across the globe.
Thank you.
Right. So
Andre?
if you want to go beyond being a student and become a student of life, this is really that opportunity for you. And when the opportunity knocks in, open that door wide, because this is where you get to understand your place in the world.
As we now wrap up today's incredible conversation, I want to send a big thank you to Ham and to Andre for sharing their knowledge and personal stories with us. You guys have truly made the first flight of the Borderless Dialogues one to remember. So super thank you, Ham and Andre. If you, our audiences, found our first flight episode interesting, let us know by supporting us online. We're more than happy to hear from you here at TBD and at the OICN. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You never know, your next big opportunity could be waiting for you. Alright, that's a wrap for today's Borderless Dialogues with Sheila. Thanks again for joining us. And remember, the world is your classroom. Don't let borders hold you back. See you next time!